A number of Gary school officials made a quick trip to Washington, D.C. this week to participate in Rethinking School Discipline, a White House program to improve school discipline policies and practices. Dr. Marlon Mitchell of Ivy Tech Community College, Dr. Cheryl Pruitt, superintendent of Gary Public Schools, and Dr. Roy Hamilton from Purdue University Calumet met with U.S. Department of Education Secretary Arne Duncan, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Senior White House Advisor Valerie Jarrett, along with a host of educators, researchers, and nonprofit leaders.
You know, in terms of Gary, we've talked about putting in resource officers, SROs, instead of just our police. We also been talking about improving instruction in the classroom to curtail the discipline. We're looking at, again, restorative justice and making certain that children are given the parameters and the support systems that they need to be successfully.
Participants discussed new tools and resources being released by the Supportive School Discipline Initiative, along with data and research that underscores the need for further action to keep kids in school and out of the juvenile justice system. This week, a convicted child killer was released from the Newcastle Correctional Facility and found wandering the streets of Northwest Indiana. Lake County Sheriff's officers say 67-year-old Richard Dubesky of LaPorte County was picked up near Lowell on Sunday and escorted to a homeless shelter. Dubesky then purchased a bus ticket to Indianapolis and arrived there on Monday. Wherever he ends up living, he'll have to register as a sex offender. Dubesky was released from prison after serving time for a child exploitation conviction. Prior to that, Dubesky had been incarcerated since 1964 for the brutal murder of 2 young children. Lake County Sheriff John Bunsich says there is a problem with a system that allows an individual such as Richard Dubesky to be free, and that it's important to help protect children from sexual predators.
Strangers, teach them the danger of strangers. Don't talk to strangers. If you don't know them, don't talk to them at all. Stay away from them. Run to somewhere safe. And start making a lot of noise if you have to or whatever. But don't go near them. Don't take any gifts from any strangers, anything of that nature.
The Sheriff's Department is working with Indianapolis Police to ensure Dubesky's compliance with the conditions of its release. Bunsich says Dubesky is a danger to society. It's been 21 years in the making, but now the new John Dillinger Museum has reopened inside the old Crown Point Courthouse. The museum, which was previously located at the Indiana Welcome Center in Hammond, offers visitors an educational journey through the life and times of John Dillinger and his gang. It features artifacts from the Dillinger gang and news reports from the era. The museum also gives insights into Dillinger's life, his gang members, and how he was eventually caught.
Dillinger is a story that crime doesn't pay. Dillinger is a story about trying to make a quick buck, and to me, Dillinger's story is really how he helped change the face of crime fighting. Police and the FBI really hadn't seen anyone like this before, so it really pushed their envelope in getting on board quicker and smarter and working harder to apprehend such a lawless criminal.
The Dillinger Museum also houses a new wall honoring police officers and canines of Lake County who have died in the line of duty. Right now, about 120,000 people in the state of Indiana are suffering from Alzheimer's. And it's not only the victims and caregivers who bear the weight of this often years-long degenerative brain disease. Its impact is felt on state healthcare facilities, social service networks, and on the Hoosier economy. This week, nearly 5,000 researchers and advocates gathered in Washington, D.C. to demand more dollars to fight the disease and talk about the most promising research and clinical trials. Dr. Mary Ostrom, professor of Alzheimer's disease education for the Indiana University School of Medicine, told Empress Campbell, our Medill News service partner, that more Blacks, Latinos, and other minorities are needed to participate in clinical trials. She said that's the only way to develop therapies that will be effective for everyone.
The research centers to fill their studies with what we call representative populations. The populations of the study site should look like the population in the community. That's the best way to do any research. But it's very hard to engage minority populations in research. That's a big, big problem. Because we're not doing research on representative samples of the population. And the biggest fear, the biggest tragedy would be that a drug company or a researcher finds something that might work and it won't work in all of our populations.
The conference also focused on ways to help people cope with the stresses that come with caring for family members who have Alzheimer's or dementia. If you would like to learn more about Alzheimer's disease, you can visit alz.org or call the Alzheimer's hotline at 1-800-272-3900. It's the latest take on Meals on Wheels, and it's taking the region by storm. That story, plus Michael Puente, coming up next.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWI Pride, and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
Food trucks in Chicago are a big hit. According to the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, there are 41 food trucks operating in the city. Not only have they become an expected part of city festivals, they are currently allowed to park at food stands as well as any legal parking spot that is 200 feet from a brick and mortar restaurant. Here in Northwest Indiana, food trucks are also becoming very popular, and Hobart is the first city in the region to regulate their operation. Stephen Lattimore has more on the culinary trend that has some local restaurants worried they'll be starved for business.
They're a hit in Chicago. Now they are here in Northwest Indiana. Food trucks, the restaurants on wheels, are a big hit with customers. They are convenient.
You can part with your tongue if you wanted to. And we use French fried.
I got the garlic Parmesan chips. I feel like they have fresh food. It's unique. It has good taste. They try to use local ingredients, and they have some convenient locations.
And White works down the street. It's 4th Tuesdays at Von Tobel's parking lot.
I just walk down here and walk right back down to my office. I mean, it's convenient. It's just right down the street. It's a 2-minute walk. So, I mean, and just the quality of it. I mean, the way that they do some things that are different. It's not just, oh, we're slapping this together and here you go. It's it seems like there's a little bit more to it.
Hobart is beginning the process of regulating food trucks. Hungry Inc. food trucks are operating across Northwest Indiana.
We have GPS on the truck, which through our website you can actually see our truck's position in real time. We've got social media that we use extensively so that we can say daily where we're going to be, what our specials are going to be. If there is inclement weather that's going to hinder our stops.
Under the new ordinance, which could serve as a template for the other towns in Northwest Indiana, trucks will need to have written permission to operate on parking lots. They can't block the public view of traffic or driveways and can only operate during certain hours. And they have to have a permit and go through a health inspection. And most important, they have to be at least 200 feet away from an already existing restaurant.
And I think that to make the commitment to invest in a piece of real estate and pay property taxes and do all the things we do as brick and mortar small business people, I think is important to the community, and we shouldn't undercut them. And I think it's an important thing.
Here in Valpo, this brick and mortar restaurant right down from this food truck says they have no problem with the food trucks because when their lines are long, he usually gets their overflow customers. And he sells items that they don't. Lastly, he offers specials when the trucks are open for business. That also helps him lure away some of their customers to his business. Wes says he's not trying to compete with brick and mortar restaurants.
We're not trying to set up in front of a Subway. We are trying to keep our distance and draw our own traffic. In each location is limited to maybe 12 to 15 hours a month. A 12 to 15 hour window per month will not dramatically affect your bottom line. It's just allowing other people to have options.
Stephen Lattimore, Lakeshore Report.
The U.S. Attorney's Office in Hammond recently charged the mother of an alleged gang member with intimidating a witness. Protecting witnesses is a key priority for the office as part of its strategy to rid Northwest Indiana of violent criminals. Lakeshore Report's Michael Puente sat down with David Kapp, the U.S. Attorney for the state's Northern District, to talk about efforts to stem the tide of gang-related crime in Northwest Indiana.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, certainly fighting gang crime is certainly a nonstop effort here in Northwest Indiana, and David Kapp, as the U.S. Attorney, is at the forefront of that fight. And Mr. Cap, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, last week, Mr. Cap, you came out with a couple of indictments, including one this week also of witness intimidation, a couple of cases with that. How prevalent is witness intimidation in Northwest Indiana in cases such as this?
It's definitely a problem that unfortunately my state counterparts probably deal with more. One of the strengths we have in the federal system that the state doesn't, unfortunately, is we've got the ability to hold a lot of these guys without bond. Okay. And that in and of itself, I think, goes a long way to eliminating, we arrest them, they're not going back on the streets. They're not going to be able to attempt to intimidate witnesses. But what we had happen last week was while we made an arrest of Mr. Anton James, who we allege is a Latin king involved in a homicide. We arrested him. He's being held without bond. He's not getting back on the streets. But we started getting information that some of his family members were attempting to interfere with and intimidate one of our principal witnesses. We indicted his mother, arrested her. She has been detained without bond. And 2 days ago, we arrested the sister for similar conduct, and her bond hearing is coming up.
Well, let me ask you this. There are different forms of intimidation we do know, especially now with social media out there. What constitutes intimidation?
Well, I don't want to give a specific hypothetical because every case we have to evaluate on its individual facts. But you mentioned the social media, and I will say that that is a new dimension to this, that we are hearing things about for example, threats on the social media. You do this, we're going to blast your name out on the social media. Those could definitely be part and parcel of witness intimidation.
Are there cases where witnesses are intimidated where they feel that they won't go forward with testimony against an individual?
Oh, sure, yeah. And as I said, unfortunately, it probably happens more with in the state system, but it definitely happens. You have people that are just understandably, genuinely afraid to come forward. What I try to do is tell people that, we can protect them, we can protect their families. We've got a lot of resources in the federal system to do that.
Real quick, what are some of the best ways to fight this?
Well, I think some of the best ways to fight it are twofold. Number one, there are certain individuals that have to be off the streets and stay off the streets. We are doing that. In the past 3 years, we've gotten 58 violent individuals off the streets, East Chicago, Hammond, and Gary, all of whom were members of violent street gangs or closely connected to them. So that's part of it.
Well, Mr. Cap, we know this is an issue that's not going to go away, and you're going to stay on top of it. I would like to thank the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Indiana for joining me here on Lakeshore Report. Mr. Cap, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Regularly, we want to bring you stories about people doing positive things around the region. We've asked for your input online using the hashtag NWI Pride so we can help highlight the people who make us glad to call the region home. This week's NWI Pride spotlights a small business owner who's making it her business to beautify residents dealing with an illness that can make them feel less so.
There you go. What do you think? I like it.
It's Monday at Intrigue Salon, but the beauty shop is shut down for good reason. Kimberly Clark is getting a one-on-one lesson on caring for curly hair after chemotherapy.
So I'm going to use my Curl Boost. Make those curls really pop out.
My hair was curly before I had lost it through the chemo.
Once a month, every third Monday, owner Shelley Scott shuts her doors but opens her heart to clients diagnosed with cancer.
I don't know if they think I'm serious or not, but I'm serious.
I want to help.
Scott started Mondays at Intrigue last March after being inspired by her best friend who was diagnosed with breast cancer.
The transition of her trying to learn how to take care of herself, I learned how to take care of her. And then that's what inspired me to start a program at my salon.
She started a day where anyone diagnosed with cancer can come in and get a massage, manicure, or new hairstyle. It's all an effort to make the patient feel like a catered-to client. She focuses on tips related to cancer treatment,
All nice and fringy.
like how to manage hair changes post-chemotherapy.
Chemo hair it's kind of funny. It's fuzzy. It doesn't feel good. It's dry. And, you know, when their hair starts growing back, a lot of times it's gray, more gray than they remember. So they're just very happy to have their hair colored. They feel back to normal.
It's a service that Kimberly Clark travels across state lines for. She has lung cancer. She makes a trip monthly from Sauk Village, Illinois to receive what she calls a blessing.
You just don't feel like yourself. So for someone else to offer services not only to help you, but to guide you. This is what to do. This is how you take care of it. It was an utter blessing.
When she's not pampering clients, Scott is trying to find even more people to serve at no cost of their own.
Can I talk to the nurse?
I drive around and go to the different places and leave them my brochures, talk to the nurses, because the nurses are the ones that are taking care of the patients. They usually find out through their oncologists, their doctors.
Okay, so we've got you starting at 12:30.
She says although the day feels like a break from the norm for clients, her cancer-fighting customers are a priority that won't quit.
We don't take breaks, we don't take the summer off, we don't take Christmas off, because cancer doesn't take any holidays off.
In Dyer, Hillary Powell, Lakeshore Report.
It's time for The Times, our exclusive sneak preview of some of the top stories in this Sunday's Northwest Indiana Times. Occasionally, we'll talk to the reporters behind some of those stories. This week, Times reporter Carmen McCullum chronicles the painful history of Gary's abandoned and decaying schools.
We've been following the Gary Community School Corporation for some time. I cover education, and I cover education for Lake and Porter counties. With all of the things that are going on right now in terms of the deficit, which is more than $23 million, the bills that they owe to vendors, and having problems with payroll, that made us really want to focus on them. And as we were doing that and thinking in terms of the 21 abandoned school buildings, and then of course that case where the teenager, Kanita Richardson, was found at Emerson High School, that kind of put this whole project on steroids. So we started working on it immediately and asking for additional information and talking to people and going out into the neighborhoods to find out exactly what the neighbors thought about the death of that young girl, as well as the broken and the buildings in their community that look so bad. You will see continuing stories from the school board members talking to them from once they hire a financial, they connect with a financial specialist. That person will come in and go through everything with a fine-tooth comb and figure out where they ought to be headed. And one thing that Senator Earlene Rogers has said is that Gary is kind of paving the way. It could be that other schools go down the same path and need the same assistance from the state. So we'll see what happens with Gary and how everything goes, and perhaps they'll be the model for how to turn around a school district in an urban area. So that, you know, even though they've got some problems, there are some really good things going on, and there are some students that have come out of that school district who are doing an amazing job and are going on and having fabulous careers.
For more information about this story, check out this Sunday's Times or log on to www.nwitimes.com. And don't forget, for information on any of our stories, you can go to lakeshorepublicmedia.org. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.
Joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Judy Gregrich, now retired Executive Director of the Chesterton Art Gallery. Welcome, Judy.
Well, thank you very much.
Your first time here in retirement.
That's right, yes.
I didn't think I'd ever see you again. That's not
you
true.
thought I would drop off? No.
But I did think I would be interviewing your new successor.
Yeah, Wendy
on this.
Marciniak.
However, you tell me that you are the chairperson
Right.
of the Chesterton Art Fair. And you've been involved with that. Have you been involved with it for every single year of its existence?
Well, the fair is 57 years old, so of course I would like to say I started when I was 1.
Yes.
But that doesn't really work.
And you're only 37.
That's
so.
right, yes. So the math doesn't add up.
I see.
But no, I really have a great committee, and every year we keep, adding to the committee, so it makes it really easy to do the fair.
And you said this was kind of your favorite part of your job.
Yes. Well, I really enjoy working with the artists.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have you're an artist.
Right.
And you have a feel for it. After 57 years.
Well, and artists aren't very good at filling out forms or sending in checks.
Right,
so,
right.
A lot of it's, you hate to say it, but a little bit of babysitting, calling, saying, oh, you forgot to do this. But
so the fair is still one of the best.
Yes.
And how do you keep the quality up high?
Well, we really work hard on that, and it gets more and more difficult because artists are getting older and older, and the younger artists are really tech savvy, as we were talking about, and Facebook, and and sell a lot of things online.
So they don't do art fairs?
No,
Oh, I see.
Right, they miss the fun of the rain and the wind and
the tornadoes.
That's right, the 100-degree weather.
Yeah. What's wrong with them? They don't want that.
Well, they're probably smarter than,
So they're good marketers.
Right, yes, they're very good marketers.
But they just don't do it the old-fashioned way necessarily.
Right.
But what about all of us who love to go to art fairs and see what everybody has?
Well, I think that they're going to find out that they no longer really know who's buying their artwork.
I see.
And I think that's the best part of being an artist and doing a fair is you meet the people who are buying your artwork and
develop a little relationship.
That's
with
right,
them.
you do. And
That's
a lot
true.
of times, they'll send a card saying, "Oh, we still love our piece," and you get that gratification, and you feel like you sent one of your children out to go live with somebody else.
So a big part of the fair is buying art, and
Right.
exhibiting art and buying art, and then you also have activities for children.
That's right. We have it's quote not really a children's booth because we find out more and more adults like to come in and say, "Oh, this looks like so much fun. Can I do it?" So it's children with adults that have always wanted to do these things.
And they get to participate.
That's
too.
right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. Well, good luck with the fair this year. I know
thank
it'll be
you
a
very
big
much.
success, and I'm glad you're still at the helm of it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.